Alrighty, so we have two guests this time. So who's doing the intro?
We haven't had an intro from our original producer for a while. Let's get the man, the myth, the legend, uh, Mr. Eclipse 75. Give us an intro there.
Well, is this going to be the last PlayStation chat?
It it
Believe so, yeah.
it
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it is.
So next week we're going to work on Discord audio,
Mm-hmm.
but for this week we're finishing off the second part uh, of what we were talking about. Yes, or no, last week, or you were doing Ada-1 today, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
this is
doing
this
part
continuation of
two
last week.
of the Black Armory
Yeah.
and Ada-1. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome to the episode 11 of Myths and Stories with our hosts, Mythborn and Zorialis. Take it away.
Well,
No, no,
so
no, 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 no. I got to
no.
start this one.
All right, you go
So
ahead then.
just so everyone knows, DeLorean Motor Company has four headquarters. I actually looked it up. There are only four now. There's one in California, one in Florida, one in Texas, and one in Crystal Lake, Illinois.
So
Illinois,
okay.
Illinois. So it is right outside of Chicago. But yeah, they I want to say it was in 2019. They put in a request to do a short production of legal cars because they have all the parts to them. They just can't legally build them because there's so many regulations and all this other stuff that they have to go through. Um, but they had, from the last time I heard, it was kind of caught up in the political game or the politics of, hey, we need to get a patent for this and a approval for that and da 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 da. And so now it's just kind of been in limbo for the last like 3 or 4 years, um, of brand new. This is gonna sound weird. Brand new 1987 2021 DeLoreans.
That is a statement I can honestly say I never expected to hear.
Because all the
Uh,
parts, they're all brand new parts. They've never been used. They've just sat.
they've just sat
And
and rusted.
they have not rusted. Because remember, stainless steel doesn't
All
rust.
right, all right, yeah.
Ha. But yes, they do want to get new plastics and stuff like that. Which leads us to our episode today, part two of Ada-1 Legacy. Since we're talking about legacy things, right? Like the DeLorean is like a legacy thing for car people. Um,
Man, that was some
oh, you
segue.
tell me that wasn't a segue. That was a beautiful segue. That was like a man on a Segway, riding a Segway
Our
on
uh,
another Segway.
our bonus episode tonight is Carfax, and it's at the beginning instead of the end.
I'm an idiot.
You heard it here first. Uh,
Yep. So this is part two of Ada-1's legacy, um, and the kind of the history of the forges. And last week we talked a lot about, we kind of went through the storyline of the forges, as just a quick recap, where the three women that founded the forges, and I kept saying Henrietta, and then I think halfway through, like at the beginning of the episode, we said it right. It was Henriette, and then like halfway through, we started mixing it up with Henrietta and Henriette, and so then even Myth
I
was
believe
like
that.
Henriette. We were both just like we'd say it one way one time. So is Henriette is the I would think is the original like idealist for this thing, who
Hmm.
teamed up with Helga Rasmussen and Yuki Saito, to create the forges, uh, or the ideal of the forges. And then it has evolved rapidly since the original, conceptual ideal of it, into what it became. We got to see them through the collapse, and that's actually kind of where we ended last time. Was we had gone through the collapse. Uh, the three had become, so Henriette, also had a daughter, uh, who we believe died, uh, um, and we talked about that last episode. And during the collapse, where the darkness was trying to get into the bunkers where they had locked themselves down at, Helga died in one of the battles, and then so it was basically, they also had an exo with them, which was just an odd thing for them because they were very much anti-exo, except Helga had worked for Clovis Bray, and so she had brought the exo ideas over. But there was basically the three of them was all that was left, was Yuki, Henriette, and the exo. And as they're traveling, they come across a group of Risen, some of the first Risen, which, as we've talked about before, the original Risen were freaking ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
They were brutal. They were bad for like any. It's funny when we talk, every time we talk about the light and the dark and stuff like that, we always talk. I say we. A lot of people have always talked about the light being inherently good, or the darkness being inherently bad. And in this instance, these Risen are bad. They are genuinely horrible people. They have no memory of their prior lives. They know they can't die, and they know they have special abilities that they can use to kill other things. And so they constantly go on rampages, and they are actively chasing down these three, these two people and a robot. Um, and when we last left them, they had caught up with them, and they were asking for a device called the Obsidian Accelerator, right? Is that the
Yep, that's correct.
Yep, the Obsidian Accelerator was the device they were looking for, which was basically the EXO was using this as almost as like a mobile forge, because she was
Mm-hmm.
doing things with weapons that, I mean, they nobody could stop this group of wanderers, is what I'm going to call them, because they truly are kind of listless, wandering around trying to figure out which way to go.
Yep.
Um, and at the very end of that, is that very tragic scene, as played out in both, one of the lore cards from the Black Armory papers, from the view of Henriette, uh, and on the lore tab of Izanagi's Burden from the view of Yuki, where the Risen comes up, they he's like handed over, and Yuki reaches into her backpack, lures him in, and pulls the pin on grenade, and pulls out a grenade and blows everyone up. To where now it is just Henriette and the EXO. That is all that is left. Essentially, that is all that's left of the original, the entire forges. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
no company, there's no people, that is it. This EXO and Henriette.
Yeah. Because when they survived the collapse in their bunker, those that survived in that bunker, I think they numbered them as five, and then the
Yeah.
EXO. And then when they were originally attacked by um, the Risen killed all of them except for the EXO, Henriette, and Yuki, and then Yuki sacrificed herself to allow for Henriette and the EXO to escape. So the Black Armory now consists of two people, or a person and an EXO, I suppose. Um, and so that's kind of the somber note that we start on this evening. Is immediately following that sacrifice made by Yuki, uh, and Henriette and the EXO are able to escape, but they also know that the people that are following them have, as they describe them, drones that have the ability to bring them back. So they know that they are not safe long term.
They know they've escaped this one incident,
Mm-hmm.
but even then, it's a fleeting, because and I was just looking through the entries just now. So the entry that we end on, where this tragic accident does happen, is entry number 108, and then of course the next entry, it's entry 109, and it's just two or three sentences. 3 days later, still numb, unbearable. It's just me and her now. Henriette talking about herself and the XO. Uh, and then even after that, it's literally like they realize that this world is completely different because they spend the night under the wing of a crashed jet. She starts realizing that she hasn't seen a single plane in the sky since they set out. That this whole journey was for them because right now they started off somewhere in Europe, and I personally believe like northern France, because
That would make sense. Yeah.
Henriette's idea was to get to an airport and get to an island, to get somewhere, to like as the collapse is happening, and even through the collapse, and through this risen area, their whole plan is to get to this airport, get on a plane, and get to either, and I think they said Sicily was one of the islands that they named. um
I didn't note them down, but I think it was, now that you
I
say
think it was
that.
either Sicily or Corsica was one of the islands that they named, and I don't remember which one. But that was their whole goal, was like, we need to get somewhere safe, and an island to them is like the safest thing. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's
that's where we're at now in this story, is and straight. She even says, "This is not the world I knew. This is not, nothing about this world is anything that I knew. This is a whole new world, a whole new chapter in humanity now." And Henrietta is realizing that now.
Yeah. So I say the next entry that I have listed here as one um, to pick back up on is entry 116. Uh, and again, just kind of shows the mindset that they are both in at this time, especially Henriette. Um, she says there's so much of this world that she doesn't understand, she being the XO in this case. And so much I want to tell her, but I just can't. Not right now. Yuki's death has weighed on us both, yet she still retains an innocence. And I'm trying so very hard not to ruin that. Uh, so she's still traveling with the XO, and the XO seems to understand, at least the permanence of death, but it's unclear that the whole she still retains her innocence. Unclear how much she understands about, the actual cycle of life and death and whatnot.
Or even just the world in general,
Yeah,
right?
very
Because
much so.
this exo is like new. This
Newly
exo
born
is
for the most part.
like and we tried to figure out a timeline with these entries. Even if these entries, like, we think in the beginning that these entries maybe started off as like once a month or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
now these entries are coming like once a week or even once a day. Like, this exo is from like entry like 90 something, maybe 80 something, 70 something,
Yeah,
and
so
we're only on 116, so we're talking
maybe a
maybe
month.
maybe a month, maybe two.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very young exo, and the only exo that was not created in the Deep Stone Crypt.
Yes. Was create, and again, we said this last time, but just to really emphasize the genius and technological accomplishments of the Black Armory and the founders in particular, they created this exo using only, possibly some borrowed Braytech technology, but other than that, just their own minds. They didn't have a Braytech engineer other than Helga's experience. And Helga wasn't even around at the time that they were actually doing the process of
Yep.
getting the EXO up and running. Um, so they did at least a portion of that process and mobily, in a mobile lab of some
That's
sort.
right. I forgot about that. Like, it started off in the bunker, and they were like, "We gotta leave,"
They had to leave, yeah.
and did the rest of it on the trucks.
So it just, everything about the birth of this EXO is incredible by anyone's standards.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, so Henriette still very much being weighed down by Yuki's death. The EXO having not really understanding a whole lot of what's going on. And this one in particular was kind of an interesting point. Also in 116, it says we came across the remains of a petrol burning car in the forest, and she asked if it could still be alive. I had to explain that it was never alive. Those machines had no souls. I instantly regretted saying that, because it only led to more painful inquiries. I told her I had a headache and I needed some quiet.
She asked if it could still be alive. Like, that's
Sh-
where that innocence to me, like, she
mm-hmm.
really, this EXO is, for all intents and purposes, a child.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, and it's a very kind of childlike logic to
Yeah.
go, well, that thing is made out of parts that are kind of similar to me,
I never even
being
thought of
the
it like that,
being
but
the
that's,
robot that an EXO is. Like,
yeah.
I wonder if it is okay,
Can it come back to life? Can we revive it? Like,
yeah.
I never even thought of it from that point of view, but that's exactly, I mean, that's it right there.
I equate that kind of to, a little kid finding a rabbit or a bird or something that has passed away out in the wilderness and asking their parents, like, what happened? Can we help it? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so yeah. Uh, so I say there are a couple of other entries here that I didn't write down, but I do have in front of me. And I noted this, the location that they're going to is listed here as Corsica.
Yep.
And it says they are specifically trying to travel south to the Mediterranean Sea,
Hmm.
even if it means going through the Alps. So I think we're pretty on point with location. Um, but so the next,
I personally don't know where the Alps run from and to, so I hope that northern Italy has Alps in it. And if Miz and I are completely wrong in our location, please, all of our EU friends that play Destiny and listen to this, because we know there's thousands of you out there, please
yes,
correct us and let us know that we are wrong in stating where the Alps are.
yes, there's a reason neither of our jobs rely on geography.
Yes.
Uh, um, so I say there's a couple entries here that aren't maybe directly important to advancing the story of these two, but I think are still kind of interesting little windows into what's going on and their kind of how they're processing things. So the one of them being entry 123, where they come upon an amusement park, and specifically amusement park that Henriette is familiar with. And she goes on to say, nostalgia overcame me today. We came upon an amusement park I used to love, back before all of this. But now nature had begun to lay claim to this place. Fortunately, I could still describe most of it in detail. I showed her where I liked to eat, where I rested my weary feet, and even a petting zoo where I'd appreciate the beauty of exotic animals. I started to tell her stories about when I was here with my family, but a scratch in my throat made me stop. I suppose these wounds are still bleeding. So she's coming upon, and it's another thing we have to remember, like the collapse, the event that was the collapse, the event that ended civilization, happened maybe 60 days ago,
It's
maybe a
very
little
recent.
more. But it's a very, very kind of recent apocalypse. Or at least we're led to believe that. I do find it interesting. This is entry 123, and she's saying, but now nature had begun to lay claim to this place. Now, we don't know how much, like maybe just grass is starting to grow through the concrete kind of thing.
Sure.
Um, but it makes it sound like maybe there's been a bit more time than what we originally thought that has happened between, this being abandoned and things being able to grow.
So I have a couple of thoughts on this myself. My first thought is the site of this amusement park in my head is like the city outside Chernobyl, right?
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of the city, and Chernobyl may be the name of the city. I don't remember. But when back in, was it 80, 88, 89, 87, when Chernobyl had its major meltdown, uh, there's a city outside of it that's been used in several video games. One of them being one of the Call of Duties, and in the, in that city there's a Ferris wheel and an amusement park, and it is just abandoned city. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
like because of the radiation from the nuclear reactor that did go into meltdown. Uh, the whole area is just like a non-inhabitable zone. And so in my head, I think of this amusement park the same way. It's this very much apocalyptic, overrun, like stuff like that. E- Even if it is 60 days, let's if we can try to pin down a timeline here. We also know that uh, humans of the golden age live for a very long time, at least 300 years.
Yep.
We don't know the age of Henriette when she starts the foundry. We don't know
Very
how
true.
long the foundry has been up and running since the start of it to the collapse, and then through the collapse. We don't know. Even here, we're guessing it at 60 days or so. Maybe if we're really pushing it, 3 months max. Like I don't even think it's that. I think we are closer to that 60-day mark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it, like even me picking weeds out of my backyard, I've got a little area that has rocks and stuff, and I kind of let it go every 2 or 3 months before I get busy picking weeds out of it. And even after 2 or 3 months, like weeds will overtake it. Like it's
Oh yeah, they're nasty little buggers if you let them go for too long.
so that's where I think of something like this. Like if nature doesn't necessarily have to mean like completely, like a whole tree is grown through a Ferris wheel, but the whole thing could totally be overrun with weeds and tall grass and stuff like that. So I mean, that's to think of nature overriding it. That's what I think more of, like the weeds and tall grass and stuff like that has kind of taken over. Like maybe leaves. Excuse me. Maybe leaves from the trees are starting to pile up in corners where they would have like wind drifts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's nobody there to rake the leaves or anything like that. So that's more what I think of when I think of like nature taking over this place. So, but the fact that most of it is still recognizable still leaves it kind of in that like very recent post-apocalyptic state is what I think of.
Yes. What my mind goes to when I read that, as far as the vibe, I know maybe visually, I think your reference is more on the right track. But as far as the like, I don't know if desolate is the right word, but like abandoned vibe. If anyone that's listening, or Zora, I don't know that if you have either, has played the game Near Automata,
Oh
or
man.
Near Automata, excuse me. There is a kind of carnival town that's in that game that that game takes place many, many, many years after humanity has left planet Earth, um, and it's kind of the vibe of like you can see how everything used to be. Like you can envision all of these amusement rides and this park and whatnot, how it was once upon a time, but it's just kind of desolate and abandoned enough to feel like to go into the side of like creepy a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, So yeah,
I was also thinking like when you said near and mentioned future, then I started thinking of Horizon, where like
yeah,
you, but I think Horizon is like an extreme level
yeah.
of
That's
degradation, whereas I don't think this amusement park is to that level yet.
yeah. I don't think we're quite there. Um, but yeah, so going beyond the amusement park, but it was that little moment of Henriette going, kind of reminiscing on how things used to be, and that brought her mind around to her family, which made her very quickly kind of like shut down. She didn't want to think about her family. She didn't want to equate her current situation to her family. Um, and so then that brings us to entry 142. uh, which I think has some really interesting symbolism to it,
Hmm.
especially considering what the symbols of the Black Armory are, and specifically Henrietta's symbol or Henriette's symbol. Um, so she says, "My head has been down as I walk through this new world with such an inquisitive young soul. Her gaze is often to the sky, and today we were rewarded with our first living creature in a while, a butterfly. She was lost in its beauty. The wings fluttered past her bright eyes, and this wreck of a world fell away. It reminded me of Hugo's Ver Novo. Reciting poetry in this devastated world felt cathartic." Uh, so I actually have the Ver Novo poem up. It is very long, so I'm not going to read it.
I was going to say if we get a poetry reading tonight and I end up in tears again, this is
um,
this is some BS, man.
say my very so Vero Novo is, as far as I can tell, means Genesis of the butterfly, um, which is
You are going to make me cry, aren't you?
which is why it likely reminded her of this. Like I said, I'm not going to read it. I will leave that for you guys to do on your own time. Um, but it is,
You're either gonna make me cry or you're gonna make me buy you dinner. One of the two. I don't know.
uh, but it is kind of a lament of the of the inevitable change. There, Hugo, I assume, references kind of the changing of seasons to um, changes that happen in life, and more or less the fact that the the change, which is represented by the butterfly in his poem, as best I can tell from my skimmed interpretation, uh, is that this butterfly is kind of floating through the seasons, watching things change, and being kind of being herald of that change. Uh, and Henriette's symbol in the Black Armory is the symbol of the butterfly. So just a little bit of symbolism there, and how that in particular probably means something special to her in particular. Uh, she goes on to say, "I told her, the EXO, that she has so much in common with this beautiful winged creature. Butterflies start as so much less and make themselves something more. Perhaps if either of us had any tears, we would have cried." So again, she is equating the EXO to this butterfly, starting as something very, very simple. I don't know if weak is the right term, but vulnerable maybe.
I
Uh,
think vulnerable is a better vulnerable and innocent. Like those are the two
yes,
terms that keep coming to mind for me.
yeah, and is expecting or hoping that that this EXO evolves to become much more.
Yeah.
So then that brings us to entry 143.
Well, real quick before you jump to that one,
Mm-hmm.
this is also again we have no timeline as far as when this particular entry is, but I went ahead and pulled up Le Monarque the Bow,
Mm-hmm.
And its entry talks about how they're sitting together in the distance, or they're sitting together and stare out in the distance at the mountains. Uh, there are still vibrant parts of the world, and we must not forget them. To fill her mind with them is to make her human, to connect her to the world before. Uh, and then a nearby flutter of butterflies seeks their next batch of sustenance, knowing not what the world around them has become. She watches them. They're still new to her. A wayward butterfly from the flutter lands on her arm. She looks at it and then to me. Le Monarch, she says. I nod and attempt to smile. I watch her. Somehow she reminds me of it. Beautiful and dangerous all at once. Sadness washes over me. I reach out and rub her back, a fleeting moment of comfort for us both, as the feel of her cold body against my hand causes me to pull away. For a moment, I forgot what she was. There's an awkward silence. I steal another glance at her, simultaneously frightened and in awe of who and what she is, a product of my own twisted ambition and desperation. The monarch flies away, unlikely to be seen again. So even as like hi- to me, Henrietta, I did it again. Henriette is looking at this exo and like there's such a connection there, and I we still haven't revealed it yet, but
Which I do wonder, especially looking at these entries as we go along. Uh, do do we want to kind of do that reveal now so we can draw some parallels and conclusions to things,
I
or
I I want to hold off the
okay,
suspense just a little bit
okay.
longer because it's like chef kiss savory. Mwah.
I gotcha.
Uh, but yeah, so for Henriette to that one part there where she reaches out to rub her back, Henriette to
Mm-hmm.
rub the Exo's back, and like as soon like it everything is just almost as if like there's the world isn't the way it is, and as soon as her hand touches the cold steel, the cold body of the Exo that has no warmth, it's all machine, there's no flesh to it, there's it's like instantly brings her back to the present, and it like
Mm-hmm.
jars her. It's a jarring thing to Henriette, which then the Exo, I, I assume the Exo kind of has that oh shit feeling, like
Yeah. I mean,
that like
does the EXO even know enough to know what was happening? Like,
that's like because this Exo is so new and so innocent and so still learning everything. I mean, she thought that a car was alive.
right? She
Is
may
how
not.
is how
Yeah.
unprogressed she is. Like it's or not underdeveloped
Mm-hmm.
is a good word to use there. So yeah, that's a it's man. Oh, right in the
Mm-hmm.
feels. All
Mm-hmm.
right, we'll keep going then.
Okay. So entry
We'll keep the suspense
143.
going.
I thought I saw one of those small drones pass over us today. We were picking berries and watching out for more butterflies when I thought I caught a glimpse of the damned thing. I made her promise, no matter what happens, if they catch you, you must not trust them. Ever. Uh, well, alright. I'm gonna have to put a pin in that and come back to it after we talk about some other things. But I
Like I
think
said,
that's
the
important.
reveal is almost there. Like you know what? I'm we're gonna have to at this point. Um,
Well, we can make one reveal, but not another, I think.
okay, you
So
make the reveal that you want to make.
yeah, so I think the thing that maybe everyone has guessed at this point, and if you haven't, how?
Yeah.
Uh, the EXO in question here that's being referred to is Ada-1. Uh, she was Project Niobe. So if you remember from the Black Armory season, the Niobe Labs challenge, Project Niobe was literally the creation of the EXO that we know as Ada-1.
A mobile forge.
A mobile forge.
Like that's so. It's so important to know that Ada-1 is designed and created from the ground up to be a mobile forge. All these other forges, from even as we saw them in Season of Forge and beyond, they were very much a stationary thing. Like you had to go to Bergosia, you had to go to Gofanon, like you had to go to these places.
You had to go there and toss fucking batteries for days.
Right, like you had to be there and do that. Like whereas Ada-1 is literally a mobile forge. We're walking through all these entries and we talk about them coming up against Risen, and the Risen are freaking out because they are severely undergunned because Ada is like she's just picking up weapons and doing stuff to them, and they are now infinitely better than whatever is being shot at them from the other side.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about before, but I think is important to make note of here again. The weapon technology that the Black Armory created and was using, and so by extension that Ada was turning stuff into, is superior to every single other piece of tech on the planet.
Yeah.
Better than anything Braytech ever made. Arguably, I would guess, better than any of the weapon technology that the Exodus Green was kitted out with.
I think so. Because the Exodus Green, if we have that same conclusion of maybe humanity itself has been stripped of, and not stripped. Stripped makes it sound like it was taken away from us, but there was not really a need for weaponry. Whereas like maybe all of Clovis Bray was in charge of weaponry or stuff like that because of the Warsat program. Like everything as far as weaponry that we can think of had to deal with Clovis Bray or had to deal with some sort of Warbind or Clovis tech. And so that's where like these Foundry weapons are something completely different. A direct, maybe not competitor, might not be the right word, but definitely in some sense a competitor to Clovis Bray's tech. And like this is what we need to keep humanity alive. This is what we need to keep humanity safe.
Yeah. Clovis was at least impressed with their technology enough to want to provide resources towards their goals,
Absolutely.
likely with the intention of trying to steal as much of it as he could, but that also kind of speaks to how amazing it must have been for Clovis to want it. But I think there's another important part here to take note of. So knowing now that the EXO, and that we've been talking about in the previous episode as well as here, is Ada-1, we can kind of inform ourselves a little bit about some of her personality traits as we have interacted with her through the game. Now, I'm
most notably that one just now from entry 143.
Yes.
No matter what happens, if they catch you, you must not trust them ever. And the very first scene from the Black Armor, there's a little cutscene that plays when the season of the Forge started, and you got a little notice to go see Ada-1, and as soon as you get there, she's like, "Get the hell out of my space!" Like, you need to leave. Like, she straight up hates Guardians.
Which, all right, I'm gonna level here a little bit. I really enjoy everything around the Black Armory. I enjoy everything about the Black Armory papers. I enjoy the weapons. I enjoy Ada-1 and her, everything that was done with her as far as the voice performance, all of it, great. However, rereading through the Black Armory papers in particular, I really kind of have a problem with how they handled some of the narrative in that season surrounding her. So let's back up just a minute. And yes, this is the start to a rant. So if we back up just a second.
So pause storytelling.
Yeah,
begin
pause
rant.
storytelling,
Go
begin
ahead.
rant. So if we back up just a second, the first experience Ada-1 ever had with anything close to what we now know as Guardians was them
They tried to kill her.
literally murdering everyone that she knew. Or everyone outside of Henriette that she knew. And trying to kill her.
And the second interaction is Yuki killing herself to stop them from getting to her.
Yeah. So you have these two events for what is a very close to like a newly born person in some regards. And then to have the only surviving member of your crew sit you down and tell you you do not trust those things ever. Ever. You know, and this being the only person that's survived, the person that's been a mentor, the person that has like taught you about the world up to this point, saying they are bad, do not trust them. And then fast forward to Black Armory, where yes, our first interaction with Ada is her saying, "Get the fuck out of my forge." And our second interaction with Ada is waving a magical card in her face and her going, "Oh, okay." What?
Well, first off, what the hell is she doing in the last city? Literally
Yes.
going around the Guardians and the giant wall. Like, what the hell? What happened between? And I think we're gonna get there. I hope we can get there. We're gonna try to get from this point of do not trust them ever to okay, maybe help them or have them do errands for you and maybe reignite the forges that are your legacy.
Yeah, like and I guess maybe that's the way that I'm going to choose to headcanon my way into making this work. If I approach this from the perspective of Ada was not trusting the Guardian, she was trusting Spider, who was the Guardian's sponsor to go see her in the first place, and then sees the opportunity to use Guardians as a tool to continue the work of the Black Armory.
Really trying to stretch this out and make it work.
But in reality, Narrative Team A did not talk to Narrative Team B, and or it was they just had to get something out, and I understand people maybe not wanting to go through like a 5-step story quest about earning Ada's trust before they could get to the shiny new loot. Like I get it from that perspective as well, but
to be
damn,
fair, we did have to go through like a 4-week thing because I remember when the forges first came out, it was not like hey, here's all the forges.
Oh no,
it was literally like we did one and we had one for like a week or two.
And you couldn't even do that one because most people were so far because it was
hard.
Red, it was swords for if you were at Pinnacle Cap the season before, I think.
It was hard. It was. I remember when the forges first came out that I genuinely did not like the content.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, this is crap. These things are stupid hard. There's no. Why would anyone want to make this hard on themselves? And then like it's almost like it grew on you, right? Like
yeah,
the longer you did them, the more fun they got, and the crazier the loot got, and it was like, this is kind of neat.
Well, and I think that was a big part of it. So I gave the negative. I'll give a positive now. The loot, the guns especially from the Black Armory and everything surrounding the Black Armory season, including the raid that we got in the last city, which I keep wanting to say Scourge of the Past, but I know that Scourge of the Past. All right, I keep flip-flopping Scourge and Wrath of the Machine because they're just one and the same to me in some ways.
They're so similar, and we know that Bungie is going to start bringing more raids forward from D1. I do hope that Wrath does make it into D2 because Unfortunately, Wrath was one of those ones that I only ever got to watch it happen.
Oh. Wrath was so fun.
I have only done the very first encounter, where you pick the balls up and you take
Yep.
them to the thing and you charge the thing and then it takes the shield down from the guy and you start shooting the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I have only ever done that encounter. I've never done anything past that. Like I've done kind of the jumping puzzle that's in between the walls, right?
Yep.
And then the little secret chest in there. Never done anything past that. So I'm truly hoping that Wrath comes over and we get to experience it in D2.
I really expect it will. So veering, all right, rant over, small bonus episode, then we're back on track.
Yay!
so
bonus episode number 2.
Little like, predicting of the future here. So maybe a teaser, because we'll eventually make an episode out of everything. Rasputin knows about Hive Guardians. Rasputin is the one that directly controlled Siva.
Hold the hell up. Hold the hell up. You just dropped a bomb and just walked away from it, just like, hey, Rasputin knows about Hive Guardians. And then, like, you can't just...
So, all right. I anticipated this. That's why this is a bonus episode.
Derail again.
So
train over.
Rasputin knew about the possibility of Hive Guardians since the Warmind expansion.
Why, where, and how?
It is on, I believe it is the gloves from the escalation protocol. And there is a line in there where Rasputin, and I'm paraphrasing because it's not in front of me, but in Rasputin's little, how he always does his little code.
Look it up because it is in front of me. Keep talking.
I don't remember if it's the gloves. It's definitely one of those armor pieces, where he's talking in his little code. I think it's like P21. Genotype is suited to be Guardian, and I forget what the word is because it's not in English. Guardian something. Essentially, what that translates to is P21, or whatever that number was, in other text seems to refer to the Hive. That's how Rasputin refers to the race of the Hive. That's the designator he's given them.
You're lucky because in game I can't pull up there is no lore tab.
Oh, there's no lore tab for him. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find this here.
We're gonna hunt this down because you cannot just drop a bomb like that and just walk away. That's not how that shit works.
I thought everyone was up to date on this.
Clearly. Little did y'all know this was going to become a Warmind episode rapidly. Okay, so that Yuga stuff doesn't have it. Let me see if it's on the Hunter stuff, maybe.
Yeah, let's see here. I know it's in here. I just gotta find it.
The only thing that I'm finding, at least in game, is the little white text underneath the
No, it's an actual lore card.
Oh, well, poo on me. Let me see if it's under Titans. Of course, the Lord knows I wouldn't have anything there. And all the little lore entries there that are as far as like the Yuga, the what is this one? The Midnight Exigent for the Titan, and then the Abhorrent Imperative suit for the Hunter. All I have here, at least in game, is the white text underneath, and it literally looks like just a jumble. Did we lose you, Miss?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, so no, just in mic there for a second.
Yes, you did.
So where I initially found reference to this was on the Destiny the Game subreddit,
Okay.
and so apparently, if you take all of the Warmind armor flavor text,
Oh.
it's encrypted. And
Right.
they went through and they decrypted this. And remember, this is all during Season of the Warmind. This is not recent. They decrypted this, and what it decrypts into is
Because now here's something very important about Season of the Warmind, and this is kind of I don't know. I'm just gonna throw all the information out there. Season of the Warmind was created by Vicarious Visions, right?
correct, yes.
And they have we know that Bungie has a knack for puzzles. Vicarious Visions takes those puzzles and cranks them up to 11. Because one of their puzzles was to find a real life javelin, a full size, like we're talking a 7-foot tall real javelin in our world, in the middle of Central Park type thing, in a geocache from clues that we got in game. Like, so the fact that this puzzle exists doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. So when you
Because
take
looking at it, it does look like just a jumble of letters.
Yep.
It's almost like you can almost see little messages in there that are very, very close to full letters.
Yep. So you can decrypt it, and you end up with I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's quite long, but I'm going to read the relevant bits regarding this particular theory. So, Horizon event Guardian proxy Zemina likelihood high. Zemina apparently translates to replacement. So
Oh, shit.
Horizon event Guardian proxy replacement likelihood high. Data gathered from genotype F52. Genotype F52. People are equating F52 to hive.
Okay.
So I don't know quite how they came to that conclusion without reading further here, but it says genotype resilient to nullification, genotype data farming efficiency, increased data farming intrinsic to genotype. So I think this is why they think it's the hive, because this is Rasputin literally saying why it's doing the escalation protocols, because it's trying to study the hive. It's trying to test and study the hive. It says F52 genotype suitability for Guardian replacement remains high. So, way back then, Rasputin...
Jesus Christ. Do you realize how long that has been in game? And we this is literally the first that I'm hearing of this. Like, this is genuinely...
It was the first I had heard of it as well. But yes.
But this has literally been in game since Warmind. Like, we're talking. So, and we I know we don't need to remind all of our listeners out there. The beginning of D2 was kind of a dark time for Destiny.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people took breaks, myself and my wife included, after the launch of D2, because it was a really dry content. Like, it was very, very straightforward. Like, once you collected one of every gun, that was
done.
it.
Yeah.
You beat the game. And that continued on into Curse of Osiris, which was just before Warmind. And then when Warmind came out, and I don't know if Vicarious Visions worked on Curse.
They did not, as far as I remember. I think Curse was High Moon Studios.
Okay.
Which is another Activision subsidiary.
Right. So Vicarious came in and did
so
Warmind.
VV did Warmind as well as the Raid Forsaken. Layers, and they helped on Forsaken. It was a joint project for Forsaken.
It was a joint project. Yeah. Okay.
Between them and Bungie.
Which again, that's a lot of storytelling there. That's a lot of puzzling and a lot of there's so much good content that came, and genuinely Warmind was what kind of brought me back to Destiny. Was like that oh hey,
Oh yeah.
there's these little puzzles now. Like let's go solve these puzzles and stuff. And
No,
yeah, so that's like
I think Warmind was kind of the re-entry point for a lot of people.
I think so.
Just because it had such a the told like cinematic story was kind of so
Yeah.
but everything around it, like, it
The
felt like
Escalation
the
Protocol
universe
was
was really
amazing.
expanding. Escalation Protocol was a lot of fun.
Like
You
that
had
was
reasons to
and
do it.
that shit was hard. Like
Oh
I
yeah, it
think
was
light level
challenging.
cap at the time was 400, and you had to be like 395.
Yeah.
Like it was hard. Like and if you didn't have 9 guys there, you were getting your shit rocked.
Yeah.
It was genuinely hard, and it was. But to think that a puzzle like that existed then, and so we're talking 2017, 2018,
Yeah, something like
and
that.
Witch Queen is coming out 2022. So
Hmm.
we're talking 5 years.
And that is just I'm going to reiterate, like I do every episode, the ability for Bungie and Vicarious Visions in this case to leave breadcrumbs that, like, eventually all the dots connect is just mind-boggling to me.
Absolutely. It's that little meme with the guy, and he's like pointing to the wall, and he's got his hand out, and there's all these little lines and shit drawn everywhere. I think it's from like Parks and Rec or something. I don't remember what it's from.
I think Always Sunny, maybe, but
That's probably what it is. But and he's like, boom, and that's what it is. And so for
mm-hmm.
us, it's like, boom, Hive Guardians, and that's all the little lines there points to Hive Guardians, and we've it's been there the whole time.
Uh-huh.
We just never looked at it. Holy crap, man.
So
All right, so now you can pick this train back up and put it back on the track.
Yeah,
now
so
that we've covered Hive Guardians in the middle of the Legacy of Ada-1 and the Boundary.
funny how that happens.
Yeah,
So gonna very quickly roll through the point I was trying to get to.
We never get off track in this episode, in these episodes ever.
And that was Rasputin knew about the potential for the events of Witch Queen, or some of the events of Witch Queen, and Rasputin controlled Siva, so it would not be outside of the realm of possibility if Rasputin is revived in the body of an Exo, as we know Anna is trying to do, that Siva could be on the plate again, which would then be a perfect opportunity to bring Wrath back in. And then Zor can get his Wrath run.
You have no idea. Like, the dots that you just connected there just blew my mind again. Like, I'm literally, like, speechless again. Like, that's not even that much of a stretch. Like, that could genuinely be a thing. Like, we could absolutely see a Siva season in Witch Queen. All right, so here it is. Prediction, what is this, 87? I don't know what prediction we're on. We're only on episode 11, so it can't be that many predictions. But prediction number whatever, one of the seasons is going to be a Siva season.
I think that's probably a pretty safe prediction, honestly.
I'm gonna credit that one to you, Myth. But I'm gonna be the one to say it.
I will take that credit and let you announce it to the masses. So now to get back on this train,
I don't even remember where the hell we derailed at. That's
off.
How far off we just jumped off this track and just like, yeah, free fall.
Say.
Fuck, man. All right.
So that just gives us more things to talk about later.
Oh my God, more episodes, more content.
More content. So I'm gonna return us back to away from the Warmind, back to these two people, an Exo and a human, traveling through what is left.
Never trust them.
Never trust Guardians unless they have a magic card and they wave it in front of your face. But
and then you're like, okay, come on in.
Yeah, like, oh, okay.
You've been in the tower this whole time, and we hadn't even out. Right?
Yeah. So yes, back to that. We're gonna pick back up on entry 144. The barrage of questions continues. She wants to know why she's special, why we needed her here, where she comes from. I still can't muster up the answers. I find it easier to bury my face in this journal or pretend to be asleep than to face her questions. We are still quite a ways from the shore. So, just enforcing that Ada, this infant Ada at this point is just wants to know everything and is starting not only to question the world around her, but starting to question herself. Why am I here? Why, it seems like maybe why was I created? Like, what is my purpose?
It's a very, so obviously we know that exos are human consciousnesses put into a robotic body. So they're not AI. That like the Destiny
Mm-hmm.
world, even up until hell, even, and we talked about this last time too, even all the way up until Beyond Light, like it was still very much like there was a lot of unknowns about the Exos, but
Mm-hmm.
we know that they're conscious, and so it's that question of what is my purpose is a very human thing.
Oh yeah. No.
That's a very non, like I it's it's hard to talk about AI because with like the best we have right now is IBM's Watson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, and that was even that when I remember first learning about Watson and him playing around in Jeopardy with Ken Jennings and I
Yeah.
can't remember the other guy who played with, but he smoked him.
Oh yeah.
Watson smoked the piss out of the two of them, like by a mile, by hundreds of miles, like, so that was like the first, in my opinion, true real iteration of AI and learning. But even then, like we still don't have a true understanding of AI, and we know, like obviously guys like Elon Musk are like terrified of it, but it, AI and human consciousness are so similar to each other in the way that they, or at least the way that I think they should interact, that they very much could be considered almost the same thing.
Now, this is a bit of a philosophical disagreement here.
That's fine.
But
That's why we have this safe space.
yes, I consider personally artificial intelligence is not equal to artificial sentience.
Okay,
I
I can
think
agree with that.
I think in the case of, say, like Watson, IBM's Watson, I think that is a good example of at least a fledgling artificial intelligence. It
Sure.
has the capacity to process a question and produce an answer, and for that answer to become more accurate over time by doing iterations of like lookups or discovering similar information.
Sure.
But that does not equate a entity that can think for itself about itself.
That's the ultimate thing there. That's the big, like, why, like
Mm-hmm.
that's such a hard thing to define, and but the fact that we're seeing this in Ada is to me more pointing her towards human consciousness
Yes,
over any type of AI.
I would say this is much more towards that sentience, being sentient, having a sense of self, than pure AI. And I also wonder if some of her question could be coming from, since her birth, as Ada-1, she has only ever experienced awful things.
Right.
So
Horrible
this
things.
this may be a question coming from like, why did you bring me into this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why did you create me into this?
Less of a what is my purpose and why am I here?
Yeah. So we go to entry 151. I tried to answer some of her questions about the Black Armory, about life before the end, about what I believed in, about what makes us who we are, about what makes her who she is. If you don't know where you come from, how can you know who you are? Our past defines us more than we are willing to admit. All this, all that is lost, I'm telling her that she should care for it. Our past is precious and needs to be remembered. I tell her this realizing that I'm the one holding back. I'm the one keeping secrets. I'm the hypocrite. It stopped me from being able to even look at her. Someday, probably soon, she'll be the only life our legacy has left. Maybe one day I won't be such a coward. Maybe then I'll tell her everything. So, Henriette is trying to answer some of these questions and realizes that Ada needs something. She needs to know uh, she needs to know the past to know what she should find important and what she should look for in the future. How do you know who you are if you don't know who you were, kind of thing.
Yeah, and because of that, like, and it's very much like knowing the past to know what is important to continue that on to the future. Like that to me was a very real part there. That was
Mm-hmm.
a like it. I don't want to say that's what defines Ada and gives her purpose, but that's almost answering the question why.
I think it does in a lot of ways, even if it wasn't meant to when she was told this.
Sure.
And Henriette, kind of, in my opinion, kind of selfishly, lays the job of protector of the past and the legacy that was the Black Armory on the shoulders of Ada at, for lack of a better term, a very impressionable age, very impressionable
Sure.
point of her psyche development.
Absolutely.
Uh, and has kind of instilled in her this responsibility of, you know, you are the one to carry the mantle of the Black Armory into the future, and this is what we wanted that future to look like.
Yeah.
Which,
Absolutely.
again, just throws some salt on the wound of, like, here's a fancy card. Uh,
I don't know where the hell Spider got this. I'm curious if Spider just found this card and just wanted to play head games with us. Like,
well,
I,
if I recall correctly, I believe the quest mentions that she has been. She is the black market. She is Spider's black weapons market.
I can see
Uh,
that. I could absolutely
until
see that.
because she did not have the capacity to do anything that the Black Armory wanted to do because all the forges were shut down until we came along.
That's
So
right.
she was just surviving by repairing and peddling, the weaponry that Spider sent to her, and then he would resell or do whatever he does with.
Well, and
Um,
there's an important thing in all of this too that we're going to touch on that comes later. So that's and
mhm.
yes, absolutely yes. So
So,
I could see Spider I could see it going both ways. I could see Spider just coming up with this note just to fuck with us and to fuck with Ada. Like that would I would not put it past Spider to do something like that.
I
Like
would not either. Yeah.
he is genuinely like I, I, I don't want to say like true gangster like he is, but he's definitely true mobster.
Oh, he's a
Like
mob boss, 100%.
absolutely 100% mob boss. And so for him to create these little mind games just to screw with people is not underneath him. I could also see it going the other way of Ada finally getting to a point to where she's like, "Hey, I'm starting to run out of supplies and materials and genuine computing power. Like I'm reaching the end of my resources here. I need I need to reconnect with these forges. I
Mm-hmm.
need to reconnect with the Black Armory itself. I know that's where I come from. I need to reconnect with it, and by having these forges online, that's going to help me. That will help me a produce more weaponry for Spider to keep for her to keep herself going, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
because the only reason so and these are kind of conclusions that we're drawing right now. The only reason for her to be part of a black market is to get some sort of benefit from it, right? Like
Yeah.
typically, person A doesn't just go off and sell shit in a black market just for the fun of it, unless they're a psychopath. but maybe they do. I don't know. I'm
Well,
not real privy on the black market of today. So I would think that to take part in something like that, you were doing it for some sort of benefit for yourself.
so my take on it, because generally speaking, if you're working in a black market of some sort, the benefit, at least if we draw parallels to any kind of current day black market, quote unquote, the benefit is almost always monetary.
Right.
And maybe it's the same in this case. Maybe it was a case where it wasn't necessarily she's running out of resources. Maybe it was a Spider was stringing her along with, oh, I know where some old forge tech is. If you do so many things for me, then I'll loop you in on it. Or maybe it was purely just he was sending her materials and she was going to try and reactivate a forge on her own at some point.
You might be onto something there. I genuinely enjoyed that idea. I'm going to entertain that idea because that honestly makes the most sense because it's either money or information,
Yeah.
right? Money or knowledge. Those are typically the big driving forces for being in there. And Spider, being the squirmy little shit that he is, would do something like that. He would
Oh,
have
absolutely.
information, and he'd be able to say, "Hey, I've got this thing that I know that I'll share with you if you provide me guns, so I can sell them and make a profit." And
Mm-hmm.
then just never come along. So that could absolutely be something from Ada herself saying, "Hey, he has this information and he's not sharing. Come see me."
Yeah, because we know at this point she does not have a relationship with Spider anymore, a business relationship or
Yeah,
anything. Like she is kind of funded by the Vanguard
yeah.
at the current point in Destiny's timeline. Um, and I guess if we follow that theory along, us showing up with a membership card from Spider, um, it could also explain some of her, you know, her willingness to hear us out, because maybe in her eyes, this is Spider finally paying out. Like this is
Yeah.
Spider finally giving what he promised, and it's in a package that she doesn't really want to deal with, but this is the one
So,
chance kind of thing.
and I like that idea too, coming from Spider that way, because
Yeah.
that's the way Spider would do it, because
Oh
he's a
yeah.
squirmy little shit. And he's like, I've got your information right here. Here's your guardian. And Ada's just like, God damn it. Like, really? Like, that's the one thing you could choose in all of this that would piss me off and make me genuinely question
Uh-huh.
doing it. Oh my God. Why do you come up with literally the best ideas and theory? You come up with every episode, and I say this every time, you come up with some of the greatest ideas ever of why things are the way they are. Like I question the piss out of everything. Like why is this? Why is that? And I try to come up with ideas and stuff like that. But you get these data points and you follow them through from not just a storytelling perspective, but even like a personality perspective. Like what would the person Spider do? Like what would his personality do to get us to go to Ada? What would Ada do in her personality of rejecting us or not wanting to have anything to do with us? Like that. I love your mind. I,
It works pretty well for me most days.
My wife says I can't marry your mind.
Oh, well.
Oh, Margie thinks there's going to be a lot more than marry. Um, but yes, let me go ahead and dig myself out of this hole right now with a segue. So 151 was all about basically giving Ada a reason to go on,
Yep.
like why she's here. And at 157, the next entry is kind of like a heartbreaking thing.
Yeah, yeah. So they 157. We've arrived at the shoreline. There's a small organized camp here. Unfortunately, all that floats, and some things that don't, have already set to sea. There will be no boating away from Europe. Corsica is off the list for now. So just kind of confirming that other people have had this idea. And for better or worse, we're able to get there before them, and there is no way to the island currently.
Yep.
158, immediately after. I've had an anxiety attack. A woman with a drone has shown up at camp. She seems to be law and order here. She made a point of being impressed with our charged Black Armory weapons. Does she have good taste? Or does she know more than she lets on? We can't take the risk. We have to leave soon. So there's a Risen that is not immediately awful, at least, who is kind of taken over as the sheriff of this little camp, but does recognize Black Armory weaponry.
So I have a couple of questions here. Obviously, we don't have a name for this camp, and we don't have a name for the Risen that's here. Could this have been an Iron Lord?
I don't know if the Iron Lords had established under that name at this point. We don't know like when they started calling themselves that. I know that the earliest record I can think of Iron Lords was the Drifter, when he was first resurrected, the town that he kind of pretended to be human in for a while, or pretended to be mortal in for a while, had an interaction with Iron Lords. But I don't know. I got the sense that was far enough after the collapse that the remnants of humanity had created little towns here and there.
Okay,
so I think
this
after
is the
this,
remnants of a town, and more of this is a newly created settlement type thing. Like that, we basically, everyone has abandoned everything around them and is huddled in their little masses together to try to stop from dying.
Yeah. I read this encampment they've come up across is exactly that, like a refugee camp of people that have just made whatever shelter they can out of whatever they happen to have or could find.
And probably for the exact same reason why Henriette and Ada were traveling there. They wanted to get to the shore.
Yeah.
They wanted to get to an island to get away from everything, because like they were saying in the last entry, everything is gone. There is nothing left here. Like it is very much like people have come here thinking they could get across, and have gotten here, had the realization of, well, they've already done that. That was probably the first thing to go day one. So I guess we're just gonna stay here. Like there's no reason going back. Might as well stay here. We've already made the journey here. We have everything we own on us. Like, might as well.
Well, and from a strategic point of view, from a survival point of view, it makes a certain amount of sense. Granted, it's not freshwater,
Sure,
but you can still fish. It's still water that can be boiled to then produce fresh water. Like there are necessities that you couldn't necessarily find elsewhere on the shoreline.
Sure.
So it probably makes a lot of sense for those people to stay there. And maybe they're hoping that a boat or something will happen to come by that they can hop on as well. But
not to make a horrible joke here, but I hope it's not a cruise liner with a drunk captain, because it's near Italy. Is that too soon? Is that too soon?
I'm not going to address that. I'm going to leave that where it is.
That's too soon. I'm looking at my wife, and she's like, she has this death look at me like, you dumb person. Yeah.
And now Eclipse's stream is demonetized.
Hey, to be fair, I didn't name any names. I just said a theoretical cruise liner with a theoretical drunk captain.
I mean,
All I'm saying.
Stranger things have happened in the Dark Age.
This is true. Stranger things have happened in the current age.
This
Or maybe
this
the
is
same things have
true
happened.
as well. Uh,
But as far as like this Risen, like we have no idea who this is. Like we don't.
nope. We have no name. We have nothing to identify her by. Just that is a female Risen who happens to know of Black Armory weaponry. Now we do know that Black Armory weaponry was distributed quite broadly.
Everyone.
So
Like,
it's very possible that being a Risen, she would not know the history of Black Armory weaponry, but very possible she's just come across it before in the field and, realized that, oh, this stuff does a lot better than this random Gvostov. Uh,
hey,
so,
my 1330 Gvostov will do some damage to you. No, it's interesting that they made a note here that they say she was impressed with our charged Black Armory weapons
yes.
versus a non-charged. So if we can take that in kind of a literal sense, and we go look at the weapons of the Black Armory, I'm just going to go to the first one that I can think of, which is Spiteful Fang, of course. There was an extra slot that you could apply radiance to,
Mm-hmm.
which would cause the weapon to have this like shimmer about it.
And
And
who
this
gave us that radiance?
exactly, Miss Ada-1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's very much like that. Having that and that radiance, all it did as far as in game was gave us I think it was a 5% damage boost while using those weapons in the Black Armory forges
Yeah, well, using them in the forge. Yep.
in the forge. But like as far as from a lore standpoint, it literally made the weapon act and feel different and made it more powerful. It
Yes.
actively made it a more powerful version of itself. And the only person is a strong word there. The only thing in existence that's a hard that it is an
I
exo a
know.
person. Like we like
Let's not get too philosophical because we've already gone off track before.
we've already philosophical. That's not a stuff, but no. But the only thing in existence at this point in time is this exo Ada, who can make them do that. Like she's the only
Mm-hmm.
thing in the world, the universe, that can make these weapons do what they do.
Yep. So with that in mind, this weaponsmith walking war machine armory. In 159 says today some young children and their parents asked if Ada, and they do name her in this card, asked if Ada wouldn't mind holding their hands and talking to them. Apparently, this is their first encounter with an exo. She takes to them with ease, makes them feel comfortable like it's nothing. Her innocence shines. She has such a good heart. She enjoys playing with the children. She's quite good at hide and seek, a skill I'm more than happy to let her hone. The children love her playfulness. There are 2 other exos in this camp, and the 3 of them have become fast friends. Seeing her experience others makes me realize that she deserves to be free of me, but I can't resolve to let her go. So
Such a
it's very bittersweet.
It is. This scene is just.
We have this moment of peace, this moment of levity. She's playing with children who are very close in age as far as probably how they think to where she is now.
Sure. As far as like maturity.
Right. Yep. So she's found people that have probably very similar thought processes on things, and she has found other exos, other people that look like her and are made up of machinery like her, because she has not met any other exos up till this point.
Right. This is our first interaction.
So it's probably very very relieving, very comforting, to be in this camp right now for Ada. And Henriette sees this and understands that like this is good for her, You know, if she could be free of me, if she didn't have to worry about me and all the baggage that comes with our relationship, uh, then she might be happier, but I can't just let go.
Yeah.
Uh, for better or worse, Henriette just can't let her go. But uh, this
That piece is very short-lived.
very short-lived. Comes to a very sudden stop. So entry 170. Last night, the peace of the refugee camp abruptly ended. Thunder and lightning reverberated in our ears. The people with drones fought a battle in the camp against other people with drones. She and I took this opportunity to escape by following the shoreline for a few miles. I know why they're here. I recognized one of them. The man from before. The one with the red drone. The one who killed Yuki. So, her worst, that this is her worst nightmare coming true.
Absolutely.
This Risen with this red drone that's been after Ada and her abilities through the Obsidian Accelerator has
Who's
been.
seen these abilities in action, has fought
Mm-hmm.
against these abilities in action multiple times, has died multiple times to these abilities, has now found them.
Yep, has found them and is fighting to get to them. Uh, and I find it interesting here. Not gonna diverge, so I'm just gonna put this out there and not go too far into it. I find it interesting here and in other places we hear stories of Risen fighting other Risen.
Right.
Did they understand that you needed to take out each other's ghost to truly like defeat the other party, or is it just you kill them and then the ghosts stayed dematerialized until the bad guys went away and then they res their guardians, like, or res their Risen?
There's so much unknown in that. Like, there's genuinely a lot of unknown in that, because we don't, like, obviously the ghosts we have of today that are ghosts that we interact with, and the Vanguard and all that, like, those ghosts have very much this driven purpose. Like, hey, you're here to help the traveler. We're here to help humanity. We're here to help the last city. Whereas in this time, we don't know
Right. I mean,
we don't know what the ghosts thought. We don't know how the ghosts interacted with people. We don't know how the people felt about their ghosts. Like when Osiris lost Sagira,
it was a
there is a
huge blow.
sadness. There is a loss of everything, and we've seen this as a physical manifestation for when Gaul trapped the traveler, and our ghosts kind of just fell to the ground lifeless, and we literally limped over. And again, when Zavala's ghost was put out of commission for a few moments, and the light was suppressed to him, he physically felt like it's very much a very, very, very close bond in our current day of and our current interaction with ghosts. Whereas back then, I say back then as if that was like a year ago. But in the time of the Risen, we don't know how that interaction happens. I mean, the fact that these ghosts, I don't want to say are allowing, but the fact that these ghosts are allowing these things that they have risen to just fight each other and just say, screw it. Like, why? How does one ghost not know that the other ghost is a ghost, and both of them don't know each other's abilities? You know what I mean? Like, why would they not know that each other could just res the other guy and just tell their person, like, hey, you can't kill him. Their ghost is just going to res them. You're the same person.
So here's a fun thought.
Oh shit! See, you're gonna do it again.
The ghosts at this point in time, being very close after the confrontation between the Traveler and the Darkness, the ghosts are essentially newborn as well. We've always had the assumption that the ghosts are have known their purpose, have known like what the Traveler wants of them since their creation, maybe they were just as clueless as the Guardians.
Maybe we
Maybe,
created what their purpose was.
right, maybe just by nature of years and years and years of rhetoric and, worship
God
of the
damn it, Myth.
Traveler and whatnot, they decided that that's what they were supposed to do.
God damn it, Myth.
But newborn ghosts, if this theory holds true,
Would you
newborn ghosts
would
wouldn't
you
know any better than anyone else.
would you mind making an exo that is very similar to yourself and just downloading your consciousness into it and just let me borrow that for an undisclosed amount of time? Can that just
You figure out how to do that, and I will consider before saying no.
Oh, okay, cool, good. At least it's not a direct no. You really do come up with like the greatest theories on this. Like I've never even thought of it as like a newborn ghost is like a newborn exo, but I mean, reading through these entries, we're truly seeing that. Like we're seeing that ghosts are just as clueless as I don't want to say clueless, just as immature,
Undeveloped?
unmatured, underdeveloped. There you go. There's a word. As Ada, and because they're all so very new, they're still trying to figure out their purposes. I get like and not and again, purposes is not really what it is. Their why, like why am I here? Why am I a ghost? Why can I resurrect this thing? Why can I give it abilities? Why does it have abilities? Why does it like me? Why are there others like me? You know, like it's there's a lot of similarities to be drawn there, and it's very intriguing to me.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to we don't know for sure what like how the ghosts get their mission, and we don't know how ghosts decide who they pick. We know that there's some kind of qualification because they scan a billion bodies before they find their guardian. But we don't know what those qualifications are per se. I mean, if we go back to all the way back to D2 vanilla, the only hint we get is from the speaker. And I'm trying to remember what his
I speak for the Traveler. I never said it spoke to me.
well that one, but the what was it? It was uh bravery inspires devotion.
Yeah.
Devotion leads to sacrifice.
Sacrifice leads to death. So go ahead and feel free to kill yourself.
Yeah.
That really, really dark line. Like probably the whole time of Destiny 1, there's nothing this dark in the game. And that is like, to have that right out of the gate for D2, like that was definitely Bungie saying, we want to take this a little darker. Is that okay, everyone?
I
Like,
want Snarky Speaker
okay
back. I want Snarky Speaker back.
I so do. I like go. Feel free to kill yourself. Like that is dark, but at the same time, like, good on you, man. Like, fuck the bad guy. Like,
but
he's an asshole, and he's an asshole, and I say he's an asshole.
Oh yeah. But if we take the first bit of that to be rooted in truth, or at least truth of the rhetoric of the Traveler, bravery inspires devotion, devotion leads to sacrifice. Maybe that is the requirements. Maybe you just had to have been a have been had a brave personality, and that brave personality led to devotion towards something other than yourself, and that devotion is what led you to your untimely death before being resurrected.
Like Uldren. We've talked about this before, but the fact that every single Guardian is driven. They have something inside them that follows them through to resurrection, that drives them forward. Everything about them is this I am
I am just, I don't want to say it's like that sum of the, what is it, the sum of the parts or something is great, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts or
Some
something
of the
like that.
parts, yeah.
Yeah, like that. It's like that saying where like the person that is driven, like they are not in this for themselves. They know they are part of a greater purpose, a greater machine, a greater something, that they are just flat out driven. And so then the ghost finds them and says, "Okay, you seem to be driven enough. Maybe you're driven enough to help my purpose." And to kind of piggyback on that thought too, we know we talked about this as well. The factions being the religious sects
Mm-hmm.
of of the new world, right? Like the new monarchy having a very idealistic way about how the people of the city should be, um, not conducting their everyday business, but kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then the future war cult of, hey, we're looking past today. We're looking into the future so we can build a better tomorrow. And then of course old dreary Mister Jaleel, like, oh, everything is dead. Screw everything. Death.
We
Like,
we want to get out of here.
yeah, like that's, and then of course, as the final uh, um, religious sect, the Vanguard,
Mm-hmm.
the speaker for the traveler, the people for the traveler, saying, "Hey, here is this thing that is in this city. It's we're here to protect it. We're guarding it. We that's the whole reason we exist." And so I think you're right there. I think that there's a lot there as far as like how a guardian gets chosen, as a guardian, like what a ghost looks for as far as like prerequisites to be a guardian, and how that idea came about has just evolved since the ghosts have been released, and now it's just become a less of a known,
Mm-hmm.
and more of a evolved theory. I guess is a
So if we operate under the idea that maybe ghosts at first didn't have anything other than these requirements, um,
Ooh, now that's a good thought.
assuming those requirements are true,
Right.
and that was the only guidance they had to pick who was going to be their guardian, then those requirements do not necessarily need to apply to a good person.
I was fixing to say, if you think about it, and this is kind of a bit of a stretch. Someone who is There's no easy way to put this. A psychopath is a very highly driven person. If a psychopath were to be brought back as the guardian,
They would look a lot like a warlord.
they would look a lot like a warlord. Like, they would be very barbaric. They would want to kill everything around, but they have the prerequisites.
Mm-hmm.
They are driven. They inherently think of themselves as being, better than the sum of the parts type thing. Like,
So
that is a very, very, very interesting point to make there.
I would not be surprised if we're operating under the assumption all this this theory is true. I would not be surprised if the reason why a lot of the initial Risen were the way they were is because they fit those requirements, but there was no context around those
Yeah.
requirements until ghosts and people had been around long enough to decide what that context was. Uh, Likely through the speaker, who is purely a religious role essentially. Um, so yeah,
So that's
I'm
now again, and now this is purely me. This is just me being a little philosophical here, and this is not to be taken in any bad way or good way or any way at all. This is just me being a little philosophical here. Religion, as we know it today, can be very dividing. It's hard.
in the times that we currently live in, and even before our current time here, like I mean, we're saying all the way back until before uh, back before AD, back in BC, religion as a thing was a very driving force and was very dividing. Wars were fought over religion. Like this throughout history, religion has been a very dividing thing. But in this sense, as the speaker being the religious speaker for the traveler,
Mm-hmm.
it is being used as a uniter, as a what I don't know. There's a word. Uniter is the best I can come up with, but like to bring everyone together, to have a central purpose in life of hey, there is no reason we're all essentially immortal gods now. There is no reason for us. And here's a kind of a fucky thought. What if this is like their version of the afterlife? You know, what if being a guardian was at some point in time was interpreted as this is the afterlife, this is eternity?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but I do want to offer a different viewpoint.
All right.
So we know, based on earlier in the Black Armory papers in last episode, we know that there were, during the Golden Age, religions built around the traveler.
Right.
Now, if we assume that the religion that the speaker is a part of stemmed from those Golden Age religions, I think it's likely that the initial rhetoric around the traveler preached by the speaker was probably not aimed at the guardians or the ghosts at all, from
No.
at least initially. It was aimed
Like
at
all of humanity.
the general people of come gather under our protector.
Yeah.
And then that message kind of disseminated into the good guardians, the good risen that did come up, the Iron Lords and such. And then, you know, that idea spread through to the different risen that remained, and then to the guardianless ghosts, because we know that the ghosts regularly visited the city, or at least
Yep.
a large number of them would regularly visit the city in between, you know, going to other places to find their partners.
And from just following Micah around.
Yeah, yeah. Which absolutely, like, did just follow Micah around. So I don't think it's beyond the realm of reasoning that what was initially meant as a comfort for the remnants of humanity turned into the, you know, the pledge of a guardian, essentially.
Man, I want your brain. I just want your brain. That's all I want.
That's why I co-host.
I don't need the rest of you. I just need your brain. I want the rest of you. I just need your brain. No. So as far as Ada's story, man, we get
We
deep
do,
in these
we do.
things. This is I love this. I absolutely love how deep we get into these thoughts and to try to equate them into something understandable or even debate them from a philosophical standpoint. Like I absolutely freaking love these. But
We gotta
as
finish.
we always do,
We gotta get
are
to the end.
Way off topic now.
So let's reel it back in. We know that what got us talking about this in the first place. Risen are fighting Risen in this camp that Henriette and Ada are currently taking refuge in, which works to their advantage because they wanted to leave anyway. So they're kind of using the chaos as a means to get the heck out.
Yep.
So, entry 171. We watched the camp burn from the cliffs. I saw the people with the drones fan out in all directions. I could follow the paths they cut through the darkness by the flickering of their drone's light. There's no time for anything else, and despite her concerns, she has opened up to me. I'm removing the obsidian accelerator and sending her down the road. They can come and get it from me, not her. This is likely goodbye. So she has sent Ada away, but has removed the obsidian accelerator to offer herself kind of as the bargaining chip to give Ada time to escape. So we have one last entry, but Zora, was there something you were going to say before that?
No. I've been drinking soda a lot tonight, so I'm burping a bunch.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, that entry, like that escape entry, it, the thought of like this is goodbye, like it it's hard.
Yeah.
Like this final entry is I'm assuming you're going to read this entire final entry in its
Yes.
entirety.
Yes, I am.
Because there is no way to paraphrase any of this or to shorten it or to cut or do anything. We're reading this final entry word for word. So Myth, take it away.
So this is called Final Entry in the Black Armory papers, and it is written, unlike the others, this is not a journal entry per se, this is a letter. Dear Adelaide, is how I took this to be said. Dear Adelaide, when those people and their drones found me alone at that deserted intersection, they demanded to know where you were. I offered them the obsidian accelerator. I gave it freely. You promised you would leave me, and you did, but you never said how far you would go, did you? You stayed close enough to watch through a scope. As the man took aim at my head, I heard the shot and assumed I was dead. But it was him who was dead, not me. You were so far that none of us knew where to look. The second man winged me with one of our own weapons. He began to gloat about that, but another round from you shut him up. 2 more thunderous shots, and their drones were as dead as they were. I saw the glare from your scope disappear, and I knew that you were heading away. I know you must feel guilty, but don't. It was I who wronged you. I grabbed the accelerator and got as far from the shouts of the aggressors as I could. They've been on my tail. By now you're long gone, and I've led those people back inland. But I'm done running. The end of my story is close, as it probably should be. So I guess it's time I tell you a few things about, well, you. The end of your life should have followed its natural trajectory. I'm ashamed I changed it for selfish reasons. Does the name Adelaide bring you any flicker of recognition? It is your birth name, and you heard it every day of your life until the day I sent you, without your consent, into a new world. You became Ada-1 when I robbed you of your end. I've loved you since before you were born, and in trying to give you everything, perhaps I've robbed you of a final human experience, a dignified death. I know I will not see you again. If you want to know about your past, know that you were born a second time in the Niobe labs. When you were wounded at the lab, and I saw you were losing your fight, I did what I always did when the chips were down. I created something. You, Ada-1, from what I had almost completely lost. I did it out of a fear of losing you forever. I charted the course of your life and made decisions that were yours to make, not mine. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me for that. I was naive, looked too often to the past. I just couldn't let any of it go. I never did have much respect for the natural order of things. And Helga, well, she was the opposite of me. She only wanted to grow the armory, to see its full potential. And Yuki helped make that vision possible. The two of them spent as much time looking ahead as I did looking back. I realize now there's a balance to life. You look backward a little, you look forward a little, but most importantly, you live in the here and now. You appreciate what you have, because you never know when it'll all be snatched away. Learn from our successes and our missteps. Be bold. Do not fear the future. Respect the past, and never forget where you came from. and try never to fear death if you can help it. I know I don't anymore. You know what's funny? I never considered how lucky I was for the time we had together. The envy of all mothers who ever lived. I got to love you twice. So,
Holy shit, man. That final entry is,
it's a doozy.
it's like, I mean, I thought, man, I thought Iznagi's Burdens entry was like the one. I mean, they're both right up there. Like, they're probably tied for number one as far as like all the feels. Like,
So, this entry confirms a second reveal that we've been skirting around throughout the entirety of both of these episodes, and that is that Ada-1 Adelaide was, as we talked about, exos are a human consciousness transferred into an exo body. They are not an artificial intelligence. And in this case, the human consciousness that was transferred was that of Henriette's daughter that was injured during the raid on the Black Armory near the start of the collapse. And she did the only thing that she thought she could to preserve the life of her daughter, and that was to turn her into the exo that was Project Niobe. And it also explains, I think, a lot of the innocence that is described as Ada having, and Ada's ability to relate so well to other children. Because although we don't know an age, we do know that at the time that this happened, Adelaide was a child. Presumably, we're assuming,
like
that's around 10.
That's kind of a mind blowing thing too, to think of like this is a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old girl who's now been put into a body of an exo that is like how it's like I can't comprehend that. I genuinely can't comprehend that thought, just because of like all this. To me, the engineer in me is like, well, the mechanics of it. You went from being 4 foot tall, 90 pounds, to being 6 foot tall and 3,000 pounds, and made of metal. Like that's
maybe
and this genuinely blows my mind, with no DER.
So the two theories I have there is, one is just maybe the mind of a child that young is malleable enough. Kids play make believe all the time. They form imaginary worlds and turn themselves into heroes or whatever all the time. Maybe having a mind that young is able to more easily cope with this kind of change.
That's a God damn it! How do you fucking do this?
The other theory, and maybe it's a combination of the two, or maybe it's neither. Maybe Yuki was just that fucking good that
she, like, as far as the software engineer, she was like, I personally believe that she was the best in her field. Like,
I think so too.
There's no other reason why she would have been chosen for the Black Armory other than she was like the greatest software engineer on the planet.
Yeah. So it could also have been by Yuki's merits as a software engineer that she discovered a way to prevent DER. Different than what Clovis had done, which is very likely, knowing the accomplishments of Yuki and the founders, but is also just like also mind-blowing to think that she found a software way to get the human mind to be accepting of something like this.
Genuinely mind blowing there. That's mind blowing. Like the only exo in existence to not have been born out of the Deepstone Crypt,
Mm-hmm.
and to be what she is, to be a mobile foundry.
So, the final kind of emotional cherry on top of all of this. We literally collect the Black Armory papers in game and give them to Ada-1. And when you do give all of the Black Armory papers to Ada-1, you see her character model, which unfortunately I do not think it does anymore.
It doesn't.
But her character model literally takes on the radiance effect that the weapons have when they're charged by the Obsidian Accelerator.
Now, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Do you remember the full quest line?
Well, we do recover the Obsidian Accelerator. I remember that much. But I don't remember if there's anything in particular, if she installs it in herself or...
Yep, she literally installs it in the back of her head. Yep. So that's what causes, because if you don't do, so that quest starts off as the quest for Izanagi's, right? Like as you're doing it, it starts off as the little puzzle box, and you have to go collect all the keys for it, and then you have to do some stuff, and then you have to go into Leviathan and kill some Watchers, then you got to do some other stuff, and then eventually you get Izanagi's burden.
Mm-hmm.
But then the quest continues on, and most people basically quit once they got the gun. They're like, well, I got my loot, I don't need anything else here. Well, there's a little extra step that you go to Niobe Labs, and there's a little battle there where you fight Taken that are shielded, and the only way to break their shield is by using the honed edge shot from Izanagi's. So you have to activate the perk on Izanagi's, which is loading all 4 bullets into a single bullet to shoot it to break its shield, and then you can do damage to it. I don't remember the name of those Taken. So I'm curious if they have anything to do with anything, or if there was just a nice, cute little, hey, here's a little thing. But then once you finish that, you are awarded the Obsidian Accelerator, and you bring that to Ada. And there's a little scene, there's a little cinematic scene where you put it on the desk, and she picks it up and she installs it. And this is like she's looking at it like she hadn't seen it in years, which I mean at this point she obviously hadn't. And then she installs it and is very grateful to the Guardian at that point. Like that's the true point of trust there. Like us opening the forges for her and rebuilding the forges for her and getting it to where the Black Armory can be up and operational again was huge, like towards us. For us to recover this Obsidian Accelerator and bring it back to her and just give it to her, that's like coming full circle.
Yes. So here's an extra little bit to that though. So absolutely bringing the Obsidian Accelerator back, because she knew that by nature of being an EXO that has not had any resets, Ada-1. I could only assume that she has full memory of the day she was booted to current day.
Absolutely.
So she knows what the Obsidian Accelerator is. She has all of those old memories that are talked about in these journals, but she has never seen these journals until we literally give them to her in game, which means she did not know Henriette was her mother until we gave her this final entry in game.
Absolutely.
So that is who knows how many years of we not only delivered the Obsidian Accelerator, but we delivered answers that she did not have until that moment.
Yep.
So yes, I agree that whole bit was the moment of like, Guardians or Risen took everything away from her, but now a Guardian is giving her a lot of that back. So a cool moment,
almost as a redemption moment for Guardians to Ada. Like it,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
again, it's hard to equate that, because like the last we see of Henrietta, she's leading these guys. We're assuming she died. Like there's no other reference of her in any other lore
Mm-mm.
entries anywhere that I could find.
Nope.
So I very much believe that she has died. I believe that she put the Obsidian Accelerator in this puzzle box, or made it back to Niobe Labs and hid it somewhere in there, because of the fact that we had to go to Niobe Labs to get this, to retrieve it and bring it back to Ada. So I mean, like there's so much unknown after that, as you know, how did this thing get back to Niobe Labs? How did it get to the puzzle box? How did, why did we as Guardians find it and discover it and all that other stuff? But then, um, it's funny because I know we're hitting our timestamp here, our 2 hour mark. But there's one little extra. This is kind of like a quick bonus episode to finish off Ada's story and why she is now
So,
a
yes, yes, absolutely. The pathfinding. I'm going to condense and paraphrase the pathfinding book, but before that, we have another little tidbit.
Oh shit!
That actually came out fairly recently. This is with Beyond Light, specifically the Legacy's Oath mask, which I believe is the Titan helmet from the Deep Stone Crypt. So this
Hang
is
on,
speaking.
let me find it.
This is Ada speaking in this lore card. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but just the main points in a interest of time. I carry a great potential inside to create, to forge. No one else can do what I do, and a part of me thinks I should keep it that way. I'm not sure I want to share this gift. It's a tremendous responsibility, this power. I know how to use it. Can I trust anyone else to do so reliably? Would this ability be corrupted, squandered, should others have access? I can already see the darkness manipulating it to its advantage. On the other hand, it would push exos everywhere ahead technologically, elevating our standing and truly making us superior. I've always felt the last city could use more protection than the Vanguard could afford. I could provide that, widespread, and make it readily available to all. March myself right into the Deep Stone Crypt and use the Bray Exoscience facility to its fullest capability. Stave off this dark night. The Armory is already known. It's a pointless institution if it's not providing help to those who need it. Yet, if I don't act now, there won't be anything left to preserve. The darkness will not yield. The Guardians will require more from me. The Armory needs to evolve. So,
Not to be a stickler, it's the Hunter helmet.
is it the Hunter? Okay. I just had the name, not the class.
It drives me nuts that they're all called Legacy's Oath.
Yeah,
Like,
I
think
know.
they're the only ones that are like that. Like, there's no other set that is the same across all three. I don't think, or maybe that Shadows,
Yeah,
Bladesmiths,
I think there's a number of raids that might do it. But regardless, what this entry tells to me is that Ada is implying she has the ability to essentially make every exo in existence like her, a walking, talking forge.
Yep.
It's unclear what she does. I mean, I guess it's clear that she did not, because every exo in existence is not currently a walking, talking forge.
Which is some bullshit. I want to be a walking, talking forge.
But maybe she has hidden the Obsidian Accelerator away again, while she tries to figure out like if this is something she should do. By nature of having access to the Deep Stone Crypt now, she apparently has the know-how to just go in there, plug the Obsidian Accelerator into whatever, and now exos can be upgraded to be like her. That's kind of nuts.
That is nuts. There's no kinda about it. That is nuts.
So yeah, I thought that was a really cool little entry and a really interesting little lore point that is literally never talked about again. um, because Ada does not turn us into walking talking forges. Ada decides that
bullshit.
she's gonna make some shiny new clothes. So
I mean, let's be real here. Destiny is the true end game of Destiny.
yes, Ada is very up to date on player engagement numbers.
I mean, she is. So. Okay, so begin bonus content.
Yeah.
Ada now runs the
transmog system.
The transmog system. Yeah. The loom, whatever you want to call it.
Synthesizer, armor synthesis, something like that.
There you go. There's a set of words for you.
There's a thing.
And the way she comes about this is very, very interesting, because it starts off with obviously the darkness comes, and what we as players have come to call the great. I don't. Do we have a name for it yet?
I don't know that we do. The second collapse.
Sunset, the second collapse. I'm gonna call it the second collapse. Like the great sunset event, where half of Destiny was taken away from us.
Yeah.
More than half, and part of that being the forges. So the forges. It is explained in game that the forges have been lost to darkness.
Well, specifically that they've been destroyed.
Yeah.
So in the first entry of Pathfinding, Path's End, Ada is at the what used to be Burgosia Forge with a fire team, and more or less discovers that the forge has been presumably destroyed by Fallen trying to scavenge it for parts or figure out how it works, or it's just rubble at this point.
Yep.
And it's implied that every forge that they have been able to go visit has had similar results.
It's like this. And I remember that entry, like she picks up a chunk of, I think of obsidian, and like kind of mulls it over in her hands, and is like, there's got to be something I can do with this. There's no way that this is going to be the legacy of the Black Armory. Like this can't just be lost to time again.
Yeah, right. So she, discovers that these forges have been destroyed, and she is determined to recreate them, essentially.
Yeah.
And so we come back to her in the tower, in her area of the tower as we know it, and she's got bits and pieces that she's collected from the forges and from other, or the forge locations and other stuff that she's found over time, and has this giant book of Black Armory schematics, and it is essentially trying to recreate the work of her mother and the other two co-founders of the Black Armory on her own in a basement with limited resources, and needless to say is not doing so well at it.
So much not doing so well at it that it's like she's trying to weld stuff, and like she's welding, and then she like, now this I kind of attributed it as the strength of an exo. Like she messes with it and it snaps in half, and she's like, damn it, just kind of throws it on the ground. In my head I'm like, this is just an exo that just snapped two pieces of metal that were just welded together in half. Like it was nothing. But anyway, so Hawthorne comes over, and Hawthorne kind of gives her some crap and is like, hey, what's going on? And kind of making fun of her area, kind of poking at her a little bit. And Ada's just kind of getting annoyed with her, and she's like, can I help you with anything? Like, like go away. And Hawthorne's like, I was going to ask you the same thing. I could hear you cussing everything out all the way up at my little perch. And Ada kind of gives her this really dry, like, can you interpret armory schematics and machine the parts needed to assemble them? And Hawthorne just like, nah, Probably can't.
Nope.
Can you convince Zavala to stop asking me when a forge will be operational again? I can't do that either. So Ada's just sounds like the answer to your question is no.
Yeah.
And so it's like she's very much trying to get the forges again. And she even says that the forges are my legacy. They are my legacy. It is my responsibility to continue their operation. What Zavala's desires that are completely
Or tangential.
tangible. Yep.
Tangential, so yeah.
Tangential. So,
She's not doing it for him.
Right.
It just so happens to coincide.
To align. And so like Hawthorne's very much like, okay, well let me see if I can help. Is there anything I can do type thing? Like I'm not real familiar with the Black Armory. You know, was it a dream to have the world's greatest gun oven? What is the Armory? And so Ada kind of mulls that over for a bit, and she kind of thinks to herself, and she says, the Armory was founded to stand against the darkness, to shield humanity when we couldn't count on others to do so. The forges were simply the tools we used. And Hawthorne kind of chimes in, well, so much for that. You know, the pyramids rolled in, and last I checked, Mars is still missing. So is Titan. So is Mercury. And Ada kind of like, you asshole! Like, did you really just come down here to antagonize me? And Hawthorne's like, all right. He's across the hall.
Yeah.
Look, I know we aren't friends or anything. I'm not sure you have any of those. But people around here talk a big game about putting humanity first, but then it's all about the Guardians all the time. And we saw this from Hawthorne all throughout the Red War campaign, where she's like, I'm not a Guardian? Hey,
right.
You light-filled dicks. We've been surviving out here without the light for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
We're fine.
We've been doing things with one life, and we're still here.
We're still here. And so Ada kind of like, yeah, the devotion to light bearers can seem fanatical. And then she says, Hawthorne says, but you're not like that, Ada. And Ada kind of thinks to herself again, and you know, I appreciate that sentiment, Soraya, but I'm not sure how that relates to the forges. And Hawthorne comes back with, I think your voice is important to have around here. I want you to succeed, but you might be holding on to the past too tightly. And so, and that again kind of rubs Ada wrong again. Like, you presume to tell me how to carry on the Armory's legacy? Like, who the fuck are you? This legacy is literally all I've known my entire life. Like,
well, and
my
she has
died for this.
Exactly. She has an even more personal investment in this now, because at this point in the story, she has the Black Armory papers. She knows the whole story.
Everything. She's like, excuse me, who the fuck are you? Like, it's very much that way. And so Hawthorne kind of looks around and like pointing at all the forge stuff around, and she's like, no, I'm not trying to tell you how the Armory's legacy should be, but your founders didn't just wake up one day with forges on the brain. They started with a problem, then designed a solution as only they could. And Ada kind of thought about that for a bit, and it kind of molded over and was like, so you're suggesting I'm starting with a solution instead, like limiting my view. And Hawthorne says, I'm saying I would understand it if it was hard to let go of all this when it's all you've ever known. And Ada kind of says, the idea of leaving forges behind is admittedly unnerving. And Hawthorne says, I get it, but the old methods aren't working. Maybe it's time to carry on your founder's legacy in your own way. And Ada kind of goes silent for a little bit, and she thinks for a little bit, and she kind of looks back at her work and says, you know, I should get back to work. Thank you for the advice. She genuinely appreciates it, and kind of sticks her hand out for a very stiff handshake. And Hawthorne accepts the handshake and says, good luck, but maybe try to keep the noise down. It really bothers my bird. Like, so it's Hawthorne genuinely trying to reach out to Ada and tell her, I get it. Mm-hmm. This is all you've ever known your entire life. This is all you've known to protect. I was very much the same way until Gaul showed up. Now I had to change my views. I had to rethink how I'm living my life and how I'm helping other people. And she does it now by way of the clans, right? Like
Yep.
her whole thing in game for Hawthorne is clans. Like she's
Yep.
all
She
about the clans.
manages the
She's
clans. Yeah.
very much. And
Um,
so to bring Guardians together as a group of people to do like-minded things, and so for her to have that mindset, and then to come down to Ada and go, hey, look, I get that you don't like this is all you've ever known your entire life, but maybe now that the darkness is here, maybe there's a new way to carry it forward. Maybe there's a new way to kind of make that legacy your own, because you are it. Like you're the last
mhm.
of your kind. It is now your legacy.
Yeah, and I liked the parallels here that you can draw between Ada and Henriette.
Yeah,
You can see, like, they both have that, Henriette says in her final entry, like, she held on to the past too much. Like, she vested too much importance
absolutely.
into past events. And Ada's kind of doing the same thing here, or Hawthorne is saying Ada's doing the same thing. Like, you are so fixated on bringing back the Black Armory as it was in the past that you can't even think what it could be in the future.
Exactly.
Um, and I really enjoyed this entry in particular because a lot of the rest of the lore book is kind of fluff, to be honest.
It really is.
There's some interesting stuff with Ido, but outside of that, not really. Um, I really enjoyed this lore book entry in particular. It showed a lot of nuance. It showed a lot of character growth. However, this lore entry and this lore book does is convince me that they did Ada dirty again.
They did. They absolutely
Because
did.
they in these entries they're talking about Ada is struggling with this, like, how do I carry on this legacy of wanting to protect, the everyday person that can't protect themselves? How do I, if I'm not going to make weapons in a forge, like, what do I turn to provide, the same kind of mission? And apparently the answer is to turn Guardians into Ken dolls. Uh,
Yeah.
it, it,
Yeah.
there's such a disconnect between what her role is now and what her motivations are in
Yep.
the lore. It, it really just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, to be honest.
Well, and it's interesting because like the next entry talks about her going to Rahul and asking for like
Information.
confirmation, like information and stuff, and Rahul's being himself. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. It's gonna take 2 or 3 weeks.
I
Blah
love
blah
how
blah.
Rahul is canonically a dick. Like,
He is. He is canonically a dick. Like everything about him is very much he's a dick. But at the very end of the entry, he finally asks, what were the he's telling her kind of go away as he's going through whatever he's looking for, and he kind of stops for a second. And he's like, what were the names that you're querying against again? And she says Henriette Marin, Yuki Sato, and Helga Rasmussen. And Rahul's just like, huh, you may be in luck. It seems our interests have overlapped, because he lifted the last name, the Rasmussen, Helga Rasmussen, was apparently connected to whatever he was looking at the time. So it's just it like I do love that he's canonically a dick. Like
yeah, this does leave a little tidbit of, like, what was Rahul looking for connected to
yeah,
Helga Rasmussen, Black Armory founder and previously Clovis Bray technician.
no
Like,
idea. Literally no idea.
I don't know, but he was digging
No
into
idea.
something apparently.
And then from there, Ada goes to the Elixni quarter, and meets with Ido, uh, um, and it's a very it was a very it's so okay. So from me and my viewpoint of my time in the army, and this was very much, it felt to me as an American going in to an Iraqi person's home and having a meal with them and sitting down and having a meal with them. And that's like there's very there, even just like sharing tea with an Iraqi person, or I don't know much about Afghanistan because I wasn't there. I was only in Iraq. Um, but the interactions that you have there, you very much build rapport first, and then you talk business. And the all the everything about this entry felt very much like that about me, or to me rather. It was very much of Ada coming over to the Elixni quarter, going into their houses, and just kind of like not truly like it. She didn't. It wasn't like an instant information type thing. It
Yeah.
was very much they had this nice little interaction between the two of them, and Ido has a lot of indirect answers, right? Like, like there's a lot of there's no everything that's said between Ada and Ido is very much like indirect. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
it's like one will mention one thing and another one, then the other one kind of comes back with a little like Elixni type saying, and then the one comes back and says something, and then Elixni comes back, oh, it's always about guns, and then Ada comes back, oh, well, we know you're no we know you're no strangers to weaponsmithing, and true, we both our arsenals stand together in the shadow of the great machine. Like they're very much having this like there's no direct until the very end
Mm-hmm.
when it's just straight up like the whole time it's very much just kind of the back of them back and forth and as Ada finally kind of like, okay, it's whatever, I'll leave then, um, and right before she leaves, Ido kind of hands her a thing and says, "This is something we found at the Bray Archives. It's not what you were looking for, but it may help decide where to walk next." And that kind of strikes Ada as like oh, okay, uh, okay, um, thanks, I appreciate it type thing, and and she says, are you Ada says, are you sure this is a good idea to give this to me? How will it look to your allies, you helping me like this? And Ido says, it will look like unity. And that to me was another, like, it very much what I feel was a lot of our interactions as Americans on Iraqi soil interacting with the Iraqi people. And it was very, very, very like this one. I don't know why this one hit. I mean, obviously I know why it hit so close to home for me, but it was a very, very touching one to me, and the way the whole thing was handled between Ada and Ido. Um, uh, the legacy of the Forge and the Elixni people who are just looking for a home and looking for friends and looking to be accepted. And there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn there from Ada wanting to be accepted and and wanting to have her own thing, and from the Elixni people wanting to be accepted and to have skills that they can bring to the table, not just as a group of refugees, but as a people that has a lot of knowledge that all we need to do is ask,
Mm-hmm.
and we as guardians can live peacefully with them. So it was a very, to me, it was a very touching entry there, which then leads into the last one, where it says Lewis was the first to notice Ada, which is the little bird. That's Hawthorne's little bird.
Yeah, a little bird that
Uh,
freaks out every time you go talk to her.
he goes full on corruption every time, and it freaks me out. But it's like, Lewis, are you darkness?
Lewis is Savathun.
Lewis? Oh no! Now for a while there, Eva Levante was Savathun, but she's not in the tower right now. So Savathun needs a presence in the tower. So now it's back to being Lewis. Uh, so she goes down and visits Ada, and so she's kind of looking out from the city, or sorry, I think Ada's actually come up to Hawthorne's perch because they're looking out over the city, um, and she kind of jokes back, like, oh, was I making too much noise down there? And Hawthorne's like, no, it was way too quiet. And Ada just says, things have been going very, very have been going more smoothly as of late. So she's Hawthorne's very happy to hear it and says, so what's the answer? Centuries old research on matter programming left behind by a megalomaniac. And if
Yeah,
that isn't a
yeah.
grouping of words, Hawthorne just kind of like, whoa, sounds like a trip. And he was like, it has been. I feel quite changed by this experience. And Hawthorne says changes can be good. And Ada kind of thinks for a bit, and she says there was one thing from our last conversation that stuck with me. And Hawthorne says only one. Well, that's kind of disappointing. And he said you said you weren't sure if I had any friends. And Hawthorne's like, look, I didn't mean anything. And she's like, if I'm being honest, social connections has never been my strong suit, is what Ada kind of says back to her. And Hawthorne says, I know that it can be scary to put yourself out there, especially with everything you've been through. And Ada kind of thinks about her words for a bit and says, it can be, but I'm finding this new journey to be a little less daunting. And when I'm willing to walk it, with others. And Hawthorne says, sounds like a pretty good lesson. And so Ada kind of sits for a bit and takes a deep breath, which is just an odd thing for an Exo to do. But she lets the air fill her chassis. She says, I should probably get back down there. I have a lot of work ahead of me. And Hawthorne ends it with, don't be a stranger. You come up from your cave more often, you might find you have more friends than you think. And so that's what leads Ada into making the forge, or making the loom, rather, the synthweave loom. So for a canonical reason, albeit a shitty one, because I'm with you on this one, Myth, to go from making goddamn Black Armory weapons that define. I mean, how many times did you get blown away by Blast Furnace?
Oh yeah. Well,
how many? Hammerhead was a beast when it came out. Hammerhead was all I used for like 2 years.
well, and not even that, but just it flies in the face of Ada's philosophy, even the philosophy expressed in the Pathfinding lore book.
Yeah.
Like she talks about, what was the original purpose of the Black Armory to be, gun printing machines. Like, no, it was to help people that could not otherwise defend themselves be protected. And somehow that transitions into make Guardian armor look different.
Look pretty. that is like a huge stretch. Like I get that dress needs the end game, but what about making it look different or pretty is helping the defense of it?
Right.
I mean, if we have a dance-off, maybe?
Well, and she even talks.
We've seen, now, to be fair, we have seen, at least in Hollywood, evidence that dance-offs are very important. Okay? Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. You remember the very end of the first one? When Star-Lord, and he's against the guy, and he just starts doing a dance-off, and he's like, what? This dance-off? Like, let's go. Come on. And so, I mean, dance-offs are very important. So if dance-offs are very important to ending battles with great beings of power, maybe Ada's onto something. Maybe our final form against the darkness is just to be the prettiest goddamn guardian we can.
I really, really hope that just give Eververse, give Tess the fucking synthesizer, and like give Ada a purpose that isn't just a cash grab, because her character deserves so much more. So much
more. Like the everything she's been through, everything she's lost, everything about her character says that she needs to be a weapon forger again. And I hope, going back to kind of our prediction of the Siva season, I hope that Ada plays a role with Siva, and that the two of them come together, and Ada sees this as the final, like, oh shit, I can make Siva do whatever the fuck I want. I'm just going to have it build a forge for me. and then I'll start forging weapons again to where we can protect ourselves again. I hope, 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 I wish, I hope, I hope, I wish that is how it goes. But time will tell.
Time will tell. That's the only problem I see with bringing Siva back in a controlled state is it can do anything. Like
Literally anything.
it's hard to have a threat or have a supply problem when you can just magic it into existence.
Okay. Follow me for just 2 seconds on this little journey before we end this one.
All right.
Since we've gotten our bonus, we've gotten several bonus episodes into this one.
Yes.
Siva can create anything, right? Like literally anything. And we know
anything that isn't organic.
We know that weapon forging is coming.
Yes, we do.
What if Siva has a part to play in that? Maybe not in the first season. Maybe not right off the bat. Maybe not right off the Witch Queen path. But maybe in season 2, season 3 of next year.
Maybe so.
I know they're not season 2 and 3. I
no,
forget
they're
what number we're on.
Yeah.
Whatever. We are currently in season 4 of Beyond Light. That's what I think of it as.
Yeah.
Maybe in season 2, maybe in season 3, we might have a Siva and Ada team up.
I mean,
weapon forging.
Even if Siva doesn't come into play, if they make Ada in charge of weapon forging, then that actually makes some sense.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
That does seem...
not the entire loom. If Tess Eververse moves her happy ass out to the loom and is like, I'm here to present to you, Guardian, and Fenchurch's Savathun, and blah, 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 blah.
That accomplishes a ton of things because, A, nobody visits Tess in person anyway. They just go to the store tab in the director.
Nobody even goes down there.
And
the
everyone...
only reason to go down there is goddamn Drifter, and everyone wants him dead anyway.
And everyone that does have things to do in the tower worth mentioning, like going to the postmaster or, getting prime engrams or going to the bank, are all so sick of hearing Tess run her goddamn mouth. So just put her in the basement.
So I gave her a thumbs up. Good for you. Good for you, Tess.
Just get rid of her. Just put her somewhere else.
Fucking Tess. She wanted to express herself, so I gave her a thumbs up. Nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares, Tess.
Tess is the canonical reason why Guardians jump off the tower.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. Tess and Rahul, the two of them can just go to the annex. Just go to the annex. Just go live in the annex.
Yeah.
Like we know nobody wants to be in the annex. It's just like in The Office. Like Michael Scott doesn't want to go to the annex because that's where Holly was. And it's a poopy place, and it smells back there, and Toby's there now. Like, if Rahul and Tess can just be Toby and smelly annex, fine.
Yes. So I think that is the ultimate takeaway from this episode. Rahul's a dick. It's canon, and Tess needs to live in the basement.
In the basement. Speaking of which, the other day, this is the last story before we sign off here. I went down to the old area where Benedict 99 used to be, right? Where during Halloween there's a bunch of like floating shit in there, and it's genuinely creepy. There's a couple of Elixinis down there, just chilling.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought it was a nice little like, hey. Maybe you guys should go help the two guys that are trying to get a fucking drink out of a goddamn vending machine. I want to give those 2X. I want that to be the end of this season. The last thing we do, the live event, is the soda popping out of that vending machine and the Exos just blowing their mind going, holy shit, what is this magic? How in the light did you do this? Like, that would be beautiful, I think. But yeah, so that is the story of Ada-1 and the legacy of the Forges and the Black Armory. This is officially our last broadcast on PlayStation Network. We will be moving to Discord starting next week, just because we have a lot more options there as far as recording and broadcasting and stuff like that. So next week, and we're going to have a few conversations with some people on where we're actually hosting this at, but we will have it all sorted out by broadcast time Monday,
Yep.
more than likely noon on Monday, of what we're going to do. So with that, I will start our thank yous. Thank you to both Eclipse and Alpha for being here from the beginning. I know Alpha usually dips out pretty early, but I know he likes to stick around and listens to our stories throughout the week. And Eclipse, thank you for being able to re-host, continue to host, or produce, intro. I don't know. Thank you. Um, I know. Oh, who else jumped in here? I think Big Scotty's in here now. Thank you, Big Scotty, for joining us tonight. Obviously, thank you to Myth. I love, absolutely love our philosophical debates we have on here, and the ideas you come up with, and the theories that if your theories aren't canon, you sure you don't work for Bungie?
Sadly, I am but a IT. I wish otherwise some days, but
But yeah, I love our Monday nights together. Myth, do you have anything?
now that as usual, you've covered all the bases. And say I look forward to seeing what our next broadcast will be about. Do we know what our next broadcast is going to be about?
I have a few thoughts.
Okay.
We kind of ended Uldren's story on the death of Uldren, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to go into the Crow.
I think
But
we're at
there's a few.
a point that we could now. He's
Oh,
kind of
especially with what happened this last week.
yeah. There's been not an ending to that, but there's been a pause where we could tell that story.
We like, depending on what happens this next week in Destiny, it may be a Crow Monday. Um, yeah, it
I
might be
can
a
get
Crow
behind
Monday.
that, but
Otherwise, there's a few others that I've been thinking of too, like um, oh, what was the one I was looking at the other day? Well, obviously the nine, the light and the
mm-hmm.
dark, like all of those have been ones that I've kind of wanted to cover.
Yeah, those would all be
Varric's,
biggies. Varric's would be
um,
an interesting one. Yeah.
at least his time from like how the escape kind of happened, and
Mm-hmm.
what happened to him on his way to being, out in Europa, and going crazy. Um, there's a few others, like there's some that I don't know that we could that are fully appreciated on their own, like Legacy's Lament.
Yeah.
Is one that it's a good one. It's definitely a good one, but I don't know that it can,
Right. Like.
that one's told very well in game, but it's also very good on its own. But I think that ties way too much in with the Exos themselves, and so obviously so much to, like, the Exos is going to be like a 40-part episode. Like, there's no.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end up doing Crow next week. I think that's going to be the way to go.
That sounds like a good good one to come back to, especially given the current season's events. So
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that. Regardless of where we end up streaming things, be it Discord or somewhere else, at least the last two episodes, the most relevant and the one before, will always be up on our Podbean, which gets posted to our internal chat whenever we finish. So if you are not in a situation where you can catch wherever we happen to be, like you can PlayStation chat, you can still view or listen to the recordings there.
Ooh, good plug for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I'm learning this whole content creator thing.
Love it, fucking love it.
Nice job, guys.
So from all of us, thank you, Eclipse. So from all of us lore nerds to all of you guardians out there, thank you, and we'll see you out there.